Hey, everybody, welcome to the Five Tool Show. Today we have Lord of the Dark Ivy, aka Darth Bryzzo, to talk about all kinds of cool trading cards. So this is going to be an awesome show. So getting back to you, Sarah, what you were saying regarding the perils of labeling cards, rookie cards in non-sport sets.
Sure. And I don't know, before we dive like headlong into that, do you want me to give any background? I don't care if you'd
All
prefer
right,
I
no, I would
that.
first, yeah, let's do this. So how did you start? What was the first stuff you started to collect? That's usually, a fun thing that we like to hear about from people.
So that's kind of my cultural point of reference. I'm born a few years before Star Wars. I tend to kind of relate everything in life to before and after Star Wars. And I started out collecting really young, probably about 4. I was largely collecting superheroes, Mego stuff before Star Wars. Have always loved Batman and the Joker and that world of characters. When Star Wars came out, I started collecting those action figures and toys heavily, and really did throughout all of my childhood and early adolescence until that line of stuff petered out. At the same time, I had begun collecting baseball cards and secondarily football cards pretty seriously. And I'll kind of get back to that timeline. But those were the two great sort of collecting loves of my childhood, were Star Wars toys and sometimes Star Wars cards, as we'll discuss, and baseball cards primarily. So I don't remember getting the first packs of cards that I got. I know it had to have been sometime in the late 70s. And I know that when my parents moved out of their home 10 years or so ago, like I found a bunch of old cards, including a bunch of non-sport cards that I must have gotten before I remembered really collecting cards. I know there was like, Happy Days and Mork and Mindy and Charlie's Angels and Battlestar Galactica stuff, some of the old Star Wars cards from the first movie, and also a few packets worth of old baseball cards, like 77 and 79 tops. The first cards I can remember collecting with purpose would have been in the summer of 1980, and it would have been the first series of Empire Strikes Back cards with the red borders. I remember my friends and I buying tons of packs of those after Little League games and things like that. And then in the following spring in 1981 was when a bunch of friends at like lunch or something got me into baseball cards. And it was a good time to dive in a sense, in that it was the first year that there was something other than just tops. So there were a lot more cards to go after than had been the case. And I do recall that at that time too, there was like 1980 tops baseball and football still floating around certain stores. So I remember getting some, early football cards from 1980, Walter Payton and some of the Steelers that were really big at the time. So from that point until about 1988, I collected baseball cards religiously, avidly every year, complete sets, packs, hanging out at a card shop, 20 miles from my house, because I grew up in a really rural sort of farming community. So it was a little bit of a drive to a town. But a lot of good memories of that. And then, I left it for the same reasons that virtually everyone leaves it when they get in late high school and go off to college. And I think I sold the lion's share of my childhood collection when I was back maybe from a college break or something, during my sophomore year of high school. So I don't have or sophomore year of college. I don't have any of those cards left, other than I do have a ratty 1968 Hank Aaron that my mother bought me on my 11th birthday in 1982. That's cool. Yeah, I think that's the only, and that's probably like truly the last card I would ever get rid of. People say that, and I think it's true, because it's true for me. What got me back in much more recently was the Cubs in 2016. I got pulled back in by them. And I'll quickly describe that. I remember, I don't remember the exact date, but I remember the event. We live in the general area in Iowa where the Cubs AAA team is. And we had been seeing all those guys come up through the system. We split season tickets. And so we had, we saw Rizzo come through in 2012, and we saw Bryant come through in 2014, and Baez was there in 14 and 15, and Schwarber, Contreras, et cetera, et cetera. One day in July, Dexter Fowler and Jorge Soler were down here for rehab assignments. And my wife really wanted to go because Fowler was her favorite player. So we went, and it was like 105 degrees that day, and it was a double header, and it started at like 4:30 in the afternoon. So our seats were down near the field and were totally exposed to the sun. And so we would take turns going into the Cubs pro shop to cool off, because it was the only part that was air conditioned. And in one of my turns to go in there, I started looking at their packs of like minor league team cards. And I ended up buying a couple sets of those. And then I took them home, and I made the mistake of the blissful mistake of searching on eBay, finding out there was another set from even a year earlier that had some of the same guys. And then once I got those, it's like, well, I need Rizzo's from 2012. And I told myself I was only going to collect minor league cards of these guys because I have the connection to the minor league team. Then I started looking at eBay more and saw like some of the Chris Bryant rookies from 2015 and thought
You went down the rabbit hole then.
Yeah, I did. And I kept telling my wife all those initial steps, like, hey, I'm not going to get sucked back into this and everything. And really after they won the World Series, I can remember, I think it was actually the morning of Thanksgiving in November 2016. I was looking at this Kyle Schwarber Heritage Red Ink, BGS 9510 auto card on eBay. And I just said, what the hell? Like, these guys actually did it. This team will be collected forever. I feel comfortable, sinking money into this. I'm just gonna go for it, and collection focused on the guys who won this momentous World Series. So I did that pretty exclusively for several years. And then in late 18, early 19, I started getting some Walter Payton vintage stuff and started collecting Giannis, build a pretty big Giannis collection. I've sold a lot of it off, but it started the snowball. And then probably a couple of years ago, I had achieved a lot, not all, but a lot of my sports card collecting goals. And I tried to get into various other things, Peyton Manning and vintage basketball guys, Kareem, some Tom Brady, even though I hate Tom Brady, honestly. Just none of it stuck. I always ended up getting a bunch of stuff and then quickly selling it. And that's when I started dabbling in some of the non-sport stuff. And talk about the ultimate rabbit hole. I've gone pretty crazily down that for a couple of years. So I know that's a very long and probably rambling overview of my collecting life, but that's how I find myself here talking to you guys with a couple hundred sport and non-sport cards stacked up around me.
It's awesome. I love it. I love to hear everybody's story. That's what makes, because there's no strategy, there's no rules in the hobby. Whatever you feel, what makes you happy, then that's the way it should be. I hate when people say, well, I do this and why do you do that? Well, listen, everybody has their own way. Some people buy cards to flip. Some people buy cards to hold. Some people buy cards just to display them. Some people put them away. There's so many different ways, and whatever you enjoy, then that's it. That's how I look at the hobby. It's the easiest way to look at it.
Yeah, and I agree. And I do want to disclose, lest anyone think I'm trying to gloss over this in any way. For my first several years, I was purely a collector. If I sold anything, it was just because I would like upgrade from a raw copy of something to a graded copy of something, and sell the raw one to help pay for the graded one, that sort of thing, just kind of trying to break even. In about late 2019, I started doing like kind of a flipping side hustle as just kind of an extension of my enjoyment of the hobby. So, and I've done that since, it's reported as business income and all that. So I kind of compartmentalize it. I'm still very much a collector of the stuff. I'm gonna, show off some of it tonight, but I also have this other aspect of my hobby life where I'm purely buying cards to flip them. And sometimes there's bleed over where I'll have stuff, I buy it because I want it for my collection, and over time I fall out of love with it, and then it moves to my sale inventory. But I do both now, and I enjoy both.
Well, me and Joe always talk about, I always tell him my strategy is like, I buy a lot of, not a lot, but I'll get into breaks and, buy new product, a lot of baseball, but I would say 95% of the stuff that I buy, I sell. And then I go and take that money and buy stuff in my PC or vintage stuff. That's just kind of what I do. And because, there's a chance of hitting that huge card that you can get a grail card you always wanted, or, when it's fun. My daughter's 8, so like stuff that I get, we'll open together. So it becomes like, become a kid again, which is really cool. When you're older, you get to relive all the fun things you did collecting when you were a kid. Obviously, it's different now, the way the game is, but it's still the same feeling of, opening packs and just hanging out and talking. It's still the same feeling as a kid.
Absolutely. And I've tried to rope my daughter into it more and more. She's about to graduate from college in a couple months, but she's got a little bit of the collecting impulse. My wife doesn't at all. Like, she tolerates it and she tries to understand it, but I'm pretty sure she thinks it's absolutely psychotic. But she's good natured about it. But my daughter, go ahead.
No, I was saying that.
I was just going to say,
when you said the wife thing, it's true, because my daughter's 8. So the way I can make the cards okay is, hey, my kid likes it now. Well, she likes them, so we're going to go buy cards. Oh, all right. So that was once that worked, now I just, now I'm running with it.
Yeah. You gotta take liberties once something works. I get it. My daughter, she likes to look at Funko Pops, various things like Harry Potter stuff. But I did start baiting her into cards a couple years ago. I do a lot of buying on ComC, and over the course of a year, I put together kind of a non-sport collection for her of stuff she would like Harry Potter and Baby Yoda and a bunch of like old Disney, Beauty and the Beast. So there are parts of my collection now that she sort of partakes in and is interested in, and there are parts of it where she's like, okay, like, if you sell some of the rest of this off, that's fine. I won't shed any tears that never comes to me, but there are certain things that I would like to have someday. So, that makes me feel better about the whole thing too, that some of it at least resonates with her.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I think it's a cross-generational thing for sure, because you see, now I whether it's sports cards or not, there are a lot of kids collecting, and it's just a cool thing to have something physical that you can hold in your hand. You'll never replace that. I don't think so. That's why, I guess the cards or whatever. But that's awesome. One of the things that I like, about your page. Well, okay, so I see you on IG. I favorited your page because pretty much all the time when I see your cards, I'm seeing something totally different. I'm not seeing and I'm guilty of posting just whatever stuff I pick up, and but you, like, it seems like almost every card you put up is like as a meaningful card, maybe to more than just Joe Blow, the base guy who's buying Bowman Chrome stuff. So that's awesome. Speaking about the wives, my wife, she doesn't, I don't know what she thinks about me collecting cards and all this stuff, but when I show her my Instagram, I'm like, babe, look at this card. And I show her the Wizard of Oz cards. She's just like, oh my God. And Joe, you got to see, I don't know, sometimes on Instagram, he has cards that are just so unbelievable. I mean, there's beautiful cards and like in great condition and everything. To me, it's just awesome to see such a mix of stuff, plus the band stuff and the actors and all that. But yeah, very cool. So did you want to talk about like the rookie cards thing in like actors and non-sports,
Sure, but first off,
yeah,
sure, I'll go through my thoughts on that, and I welcome you guys' reaction to it. But thank you, first of all, for that. I mean, I'm just buying stuff that I like, and I probably buy, more stuff than I should. But over time, I mean, I think the longer you do this, whether you're focusing on sports cards or Pokemon or, some of this entertainment or culture stuff, you just get a better sense of what am I likely to like for the long term. You have enough experiences where you buy something and then a few months later, a year later, you sell it. And I think you just get a more refined sense over time, um, that, okay, if I spend the money on that, I'm probably going to want to keep it. I'm still not at a point where I do that perfectly. I mean, I do still tire of things and things like that, but less and less. I really feel like I've kind of hit that stride as a collector, for a lot of the stuff that I'm getting and posting these days is stuff that is meaningful to me beyond just, oh, that is a card that looks cool and I want it because I want it. I try to have some reasons for that. But I do appreciate, I'm not somebody that tries to curry a lot of favor and followers and things like that. And in fact, about 10 months ago, I went through and deleted like 90% of my Instagram followers for a variety of reasons. And I kind of just started over. I went from like 930 to 86. And so I know sometimes, on Instagram, people will be derisive that, oh, well, you've got like a really small following. Well, that's by choice and design to an extent. And I'm trying to grow it up more organically, again, focusing more on the non-sport stuff. But if I only have a handful of people that react to my stuff like you just did, and you were nice enough to say, that's fine with me. I would honestly rather have 10 people who meaningfully interact with me than 10,000 people that are a mixture of card shops and sex bot accounts and God knows what else, and people just stalking me and lurking and things like that. That's not meaningful to me. If people want to do that, that's fine. But I couldn't care less if you think that having 200 or 300 followers is like a joke, because to me, that's honestly almost more than I care to have.
Loyal supporters, that's all you could ask for. People that enjoy your stuff, that comment and say, hey, that's cool. If you're there for another reason, then what's the point?
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, even though I, flip cards and stuff on the side for fun, I'm not trying to monetize anything, or it bugs me when some personages in the hobby just try to turn everything into a marketing seminar and, oh, you're not a person, you're a brand. I mean, fuck that. That's just idiotic in my view.
I hate that thing. Like when people always say that, the brand, you're a brand, this and that, a brand. People have been saying that for a long time. And I'm always just like, listen, man, what are you talking about? It's just a very annoying thing to think about everything that way anyway, like brand. It's like, I feel like, like with this show that we're doing right now, like me and Joe, we just put these, we just make these videos. We don't, try to tell people what to buy and what to invest, because those are the channels that get a lot. I mean, me and Joe, we invest our money in like doing cards and all this stuff. We could easily say, hey, why don't we just get a case of Bowman Chrome and start doing breaks and all this stuff. And I'm sure we'd have way more followers and all that. But the best channels and stuff, the best people to interact with, for me anyway, as a collector, are always just, obscure. And I think it's like that in art too, like obscure producers, obscure guitar player, whatever. It's always, to me, that's cool. So I dig that. On YouTube, there's this guy, I think Massa Jackson. He probably has maybe 1,000 followers or 1,500 maybe, which is, not that many, right? Considering he's been around for like maybe 13 or 14 years, right? But this guy just showed off the most unbelievable T206 stuff with all the different backs and all, and he's been doing it for years. But there are people who have started channels in 2019 that are like the investor, this investor, that investor. It's all, to me, I'm not, if I had tons of money to invest in something, I really probably wouldn't be doing it in sports cards anyway. To me, this is a hobby. It's so fun. I'm not saying, everybody wants cards to be valuable and all that, but that's what's cool about, I think, what me and Joe do. We, I started getting back into cards in 2017. I think Joe in 2019 and 2020. And, we've been just like to learn and talk to people and different kind of collectors and all that all the time. So it's just a cool show. We just chill out and listen to people like you that we're interested in and ask questions too. So if we ask questions, don't take, we may ask you, nothing crazy, but like, pick your brain about some of this stuff.
Yeah, please do.
so-
And I totally agree. And I'll get into the rookie card thing in a moment, but last thought for now, at least on the whole follower thing and the clickbait thing, like I'm probably not the target audience for a lot of those people, but for what it's worth, whoever in, YouTube land or internet land ever watches this, if you put out thumbnails for your videos where you're going like this and saying, I just spent X dollars at a card show, I'm going to think you're an idiot and I'm not going to watch your shit.
No, I've seen those like, yeah, the wow or whatever emojis with I know we've just spent 60 grand at the Dallas car or something, whatever. I find
But you know what? I know that works. I know it works because I've had some, I've had some people who I do really, I've had some people who I really like and respect who create content who have done that a couple times. And I'm just like, dude, you just look like an idiot. And they're like, I know, but that's how you get views. I mean, it works. And they're always like giving me metrics. Like when I do that, I get, 15 times as many views as when I don't. So the problem, I guess, is all of us who are watching.
Yeah, it's I'll be honest, like I have a YouTube channel also, right? And I just make videos. No, I don't have many followers, maybe like 300. And I'll do whatever, cool Conseco cards or something like that. My favorite Barry Larkins. I'll get like 100 views, whatever. And this is just me looking at my own cards, sharing them with people. That's all it is. But then when I do like my top 10 PSA cards from the 50s, that video will get like 1,500 views. Or like I did one, I was like Hall of Fame locks to buy right now, which that's really pushing it for me because I don't like to tell people what to, but then again, I catch myself. Sometimes I'm like, why would you buy this card when you could buy a Hank Aaron rookie? I do have my opinions. So there is a thin line there between, telling people what to, we all have our opinions, but it's kind of a whole thing with just being a collector, enjoying what you do and not worrying about what this one or that one's going to tell you about. Oh, well, you should be buying this. You should be buying that. This is the product to have. Creating controversy to get to get likes, doing stuff on videos to get people like, oh, wow, that's, you made this kind of thing. So even just a mild thing like guys to buy right now, that video has 7,000 views. None of my other videos have anything close to that. And it's nothing crazy. I'm not telling you anything crazy. I'm telling you Mike Trout, Yadier Molina, Mookie Betts, Zach Greinke, Verlander, guys like that. Like that's rocket science to no one. If you watch baseball, those guys are getting in the Hall of Fame. But it's still, people watch those videos with a title like that. So it's a whole nuanced kind of thing. I just love it for the fun. I get up, I go to work every day like Joe does, and we got to make money to pay bills and all that. So that's really the main, but it's just a fun thing. And I think when you take it beyond that, and I'm sorry to rant about this, but when you take it beyond that too much, and you try to be influencing people and an influencer and all that stuff, I mean, what are you really doing? What are you really doing? You're just trying to get views to yourself. But if what you're saying isn't really a good thing and what you're doing isn't a good thing, then what are you doing? So, anyway.
I think the whole concept of influencer, like as some purposeful thing and as some sort of like actual quasi job or something we should hand out awards for is absurd. I mean, I think to the extent I mean, I certainly don't try to influence anyone. I have a hard enough time probably keeping myself in line, but to the extent I can do it organically just by being authentic, if anyone else is, inspired by that in some way, great. If they're not, like you, I'm kind of doing it for myself too. I enjoy this stuff. I like sharing it to anyone else out there who might enjoy seeing it. But, the person who probably enjoys seeing it the most is me. I go back and I look at my Flickr page and I look at my Instagram page and, I don't get these cards out physically that much. Some of them are usually in bank vaults and stuff. And, that's how I enjoy my collection. So I kind of put a lot of that stuff out there for me first and foremost. And if anyone else can enjoy any of it or get inspired to go buy something that they're really into that maybe they didn't consider before, that's just all sort of ancillary icing on the cake.
Hey,
Yeah.
real quick, before we get into your view on the rookie card, non-sport, I wanted to say this because I collect Frank Sinatra, right? And I have a lot of his first stuff. Now, the thing is about saying there's a rookie card for like that type of, a Frank Sinatra, right? It's so crazy because his first cards, some are stamps.
Yep.
There's one card that's, I think, a Spanish or something card that there was only one of, and PSA will no longer grade it. Then there's some 1947 ones that there's Quad film, there's the Turf cigarette. So you have all these different things. And there's the first card. It's called the 1930 Aint biscuit. Now, the funny thing with those is, first of all, Frank Sinatra wasn't even really known in the 30s. So it's like, when did these cards, I tried to do research. When did these cards even come out? They couldn't have came out. If they came out in the 30s, Frank Sinatra didn't even have a hit until 1940. So it's like, in your words of saying how like it's tough to say a rookie card, it's almost the only way you could say it is like a first card, right? Because how do you go about that? Now, do you look at his rookie? Do you say first card? Do you even think it even matters? How would you get into your?
That's a great introduction to the whole, discussion and many of the concepts that I think you have to try to sort through. So let me do my spiel and then we can react. And I have some cards here that maybe I can put my hands on quick enough to illustrate, some of these things that I've encountered, some of these issues I've encountered in my own collecting. But number one, I just personally think that it's kind of just awkward in a way to try to graft that like sports concept onto non-sports. This is not a persuasive argument in any way. It's just a matter of personal style and preference. Now, I will say, if someone accused me of having said it's dumb on Instagram like 17 to 25 times, I would have to admit I have said that, but I will take a less flippantly dismissive route and say that I think it's kind of awkward to do it. But I also recognize that the whole rookie card thing as a shorthand for what's likely the most valuable or sought after, card of somebody is something that's hardwired into anybody who at least, has ever seen a Beckett magazine. Or my first Beckett was an annual that was like that thick. It wasn't a magazine, but in 1981, I think. But I get why people want to do it. But and I'm not trying to talk by what I'm going to say here. I'm not trying to talk anyone out of wanting to collect, maybe exclusively collect, quote unquote non-sport rookies. But I do think, especially if you don't have a lot of experience in these areas of the vast expanse of non-sport and all the rabbit holes it can entail, you need to be careful. I mean, I'm hoping that maybe I can give some people at least some directional food for thought about some things they need to think through before they go spending a bunch of money on things called rookies. Because I'll just jump to one of the last things on my list here. One of the big problems is that a lot of sellers out there call every non-sport card a rookie. I think many of them don't know the difference. Some of them do know, and they're being purposefully misleading. And I think that if you just go out on eBay and type in, Frank Sinatra rookie card and start, hitting buy it now, you're going to buy a lot of crap that ain't even close. And I think this for me is where I just can't get on board with focusing exclusively or paying high premiums for rookie cards, quote unquote rookie cards in non-sport. Nobody knows. And this was embedded in what you just said about the Sinatra stuff. Nobody knows what's first. There are people who this stuff comes from all over the world, and there are all sorts of, this is not like sports cards where you can go to Cardboard Connection or Beckett or something like that and do a nice little tidy search and figure out everything that exists for a player. And I know there are gaps there in sports cards in certain areas, and there are sometimes obscure regional sets that pop up that nobody really knew about. But that's rare. It happens all the time in non-sport. Like I even know some very, very long time collectors and dealers who I've met in the last couple of years that they themselves numerous times a year find something for a given actor or band or something that is several years earlier than what they thought was first. This happened to me just this week. I will get to some of the Wizard of Oz stuff, but I also collect Judy Garland, and to the extent I can find stuff, some of the other actors who appear in Wizard of Oz, I collect their cards as themselves. If you type Judy Garland rookie card in eBay, and I apologize that the visuals here may not be great because of the lighting and everything. Hopefully you can kind of see that. I'll try to cut down on the glare, but this card, yeah, this card, the My Favorite Part card, I believe it's a British tobacco card, Gallagher Limited from 1939. A lot of people will say that's Judy Garland's rookie card. Just last week, I purchased from a longtime collector and sometime dealer in Canada, and I wish it was here yet. It's not. I'd show it. But I purchased a Judy Garland card that has a photo from a movie she did before Wizard of Oz, and it's unclear exactly when that card was released and when that set was released. But it's either 1939, paying, $1,000 plus for PSA 9s of this card. It's either a co-rookie card now, or it isn't her rookie card anymore because something earlier just surfaced. And it's not like this set was unknown. It was just unknown to most people. There's a site called moviecard.com that a longtime collector has maintained that I just got turned off. Yeah, and this set is on there. He says it's from sometime in the 30s, but I've seen some other information that leads me to believe it's 38 or 39. And that just shows, even for somebody as famous as Judy Garland, who's been around for like 85 years, you don't know for sure what may pop up, from some nook and cranny in Eastern Europe or South America that nobody knew about before. What about Roger Scoresby?
Oh, what's up, bro?
There he is.
I'm back. Yeah, sorry. I got some crazy internet issues, I guess. And my apologies, but
fine. Yo, listen, because I'm gonna edit this. So, I was talking to Joe. I was like, hopefully the beginning stuff, isn't all hopefully recorded from your end to the server at Zoom, and I download it to edit it, it'll be okay. But yeah, whatever, man. It's cool.
If we have to do it over, I could do it from another level of the house, maybe. That's probably part of the problem, but I can
I would really like for you if you went in and showed us some of your stuff, man. Like,
you want me to do some show and tell?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll do. One more thing, I guess, to kind of try to stick the landing on a little bit of the rookie stuff, just because this is a pet peeve of mine. This will be the start of show and tell. And my apologies to anyone who I may offend with this, but okay. Everyone says 1985 Panini Smash Hits. Everyone calls this Madonna's rookie card. Now, there's at least one other Panini sticker from 85 that is way rarer than this, but it's also from 85. And I think there's some other stuff as well from 85. But this is from 1984. And this was distributed by I believe my understanding is by a grocery store chain called Coles in Australia.
Wow.
And if you read the back, it's clear that it was created before Like a Virgin came out, because it's just talking about her first album. And I've seen what I think pictures from the guy I got this from, of what I think was the complete set or near complete set of these. He bought it from a guy in Australia who had collected for decades. I didn't see anyone else in the set that I recognized. I think they were a bunch of like aspiring like British and Australian pop acts that never achieved any global notoriety. I think she's the only truly famous person in it. or nearly so if I'm overlooked someone. But this card is super rare. You can maybe see, I know the picture's not great. This one has some condition issues. This is one of those that if you see half of it, you buy it.
Yeah.
If it's ripped in half, you buy it, and you hope to get like a better one down the road, because you may never see one for sale again. But that's just an example. And some people will say then, well, that's just too rare to be the rookie, or that was a grocery store, premium giveaway. I'm not sure how they were distributed exactly. That doesn't count. Well, that's convenient. But then what are the rules that we're going to live by? Is first, or is first not first?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. It's almost like with the Monty Gum cards in wrestling, they weren't licensed. The cards were really made, but people respect some of those cards as some wrestlers' first cards are rookie cards, and was never even legally licensed. So, I mean, I say wrestling is so much, you can compare it so much to the non-sport for the fact that there's so many mysteries, there's so many unknowns, there's so many things that we think now in 2 years that you might find something just like a Madonna card like that no one ever even saw or heard before,
Right. Yeah. And I've thought too that wrestling was a good analogy, because I do recall, even though I haven't avidly collected it, I do recall the big debate, a year or two ago, when some of those like obscure rock stickers started to really hit the market, and everybody was like, which one, is the market going to consider the true rookie? And this is kind of like that, although maybe even arguably more obscure. One thing about Monty Gum, I love Monty Gum. Monty Gum stuff actually goes back, I think, at least into the mid 60s. I have a Beatles
rock stuff was from Monty Gum that I just realized in the last few months.
Yep, and they did a Star Wars set for Return of the Jedi. They did a bunch of movie sets. There's like a Star Trek II Wrath of Khan set. There's like a Kojak set. Here's from the ET set. There are a number of great cards of Spielberg, including like, that's a serious one, but then there are all these goofy ones where he's like hamming around with the ET, Muppet or whatever. And I love Monty Gum. Like I have a 66 Monty Gum Beatles. I think that's my oldest, but a lot of music acts have like their rookies in 1972 Monty Gum. That's a big set. Another big set for those of you who like the music stuff. By the way, Sinatra, I don't know, you've probably seen this one. This one's not in great condition, but this is like from some like dance school in Amsterdam. I think it's from 1960. That's like my favorite Sinatra card.
That card is great, though. It's a great card.
But this is Monty Gum. It's just their full-size cards, which most of their cards are minis. But this is a 1977 set called Monty Punk, The New Wave. And this is an incredibly important music set. It's got the first appearance cards of tons of pretty famous acts, everybody from the Sex Pistols, who I just showed, to Blondie. It's got an early Kiss card, several Kiss cards.
That's Blondie's rookie?
What's that?
That's Blondie's rookie? And
so there are four Blondie cards that I know of in the set. Two of them, I used to have all four. There are two that are Deborah Harry herself, and it says Blondie, but it's just her. There are also two group cards. This is one. I have the other. I just don't have it pulled. But so there are four. That's another wrinkle, I guess. When you have a set that has like multiples, are all of them rookies, or is one the rookie? But
well,
like I think
Harry, I would think there would be I would want the one with just her on the cover, but I would be cool with the one with the rest of the band as well. That's awesome. Blondie's one of the most like iconic New York acts ever.
Yep.
Blondie sounds like New York. My mom used to listen to Blondie. Like that, Blondie's one of the greatest bands ever. So that's very cool for me to find out about. Like, I might try to find a Blondie rookie. And that Madonna rookie from the Coles in Australia, dude, that's incredible. I mean,
yeah,
Madonna,
that is a cool card. It is a
great card, bro.
I hope I can get SGC to grade that at some point. I'm very down on PSA. We don't have to go down that alley, but I'm probably going to be sending a lot of my ungraded stuff to SGC in the future. I hope they'll grade that. I don't know how recognized that is because it is so obscure, but I'm just going to start rapid firing some things. Please follow up and slow me down if this is incoherent, but one of my favorite cards, I'm a huge Doors fan, and I personally think Jim Morrison is the greatest rock star pound for pound of all time. Whether you love the music or not, I think he was the embodiment of the decadent rock star, and it was like his life was like performance art, basically. But this is their rookie, if we're going to use that, 1968 Panini Cantanti. That's the PSA 9, which I point out only because I never thought I'd get to buy one in that high of a grade.
Wow. Is that pot? There can't be too many of those at 9, right?
There, last I checked, there was 6, and there's 110.
Wow, there is 10.
There is. It was
incredible.
It was submitted.
One of the, yeah, I love the. I mean, the Doors are crazy. The thing about the Doors, I'm a musician, so is Joe. So the thing about the Doors for me that I love is that nobody really sounds like the Doors. It's just like psychedelic garage rock on steroids. Like nothing sounds like the Doors.
And it's because
there's no other band.
It's because of the organ,
puts it
right?
together.
It's
Ray Manzarek,
right?
legend, Bobby Krieger. Like that band's ridiculous, and nobody sounds like them. But they have the whole California thing going on, like that sound. Jim Morrison was a maniac. He was rivaling Jimi Hendrix as far as just being a complete psycho rock star, getting drunk and going nuts. So, the Doors, legendary, and that's a great card. Awesome. Keep going. I'm sorry. I just had to put that in there.
No. And one thing that, there's so much like decadent romanticism tied up with the Doors, even though Morrison he probably wasn't a very good person by a lot of measures, in all honesty. And it's hard to know who he really was versus his public persona. And I think the two kind of merged after a while, but he is a very, very interesting character. And whether you like the music or not, I think he's sort of an overlooked figure in rock history. I think what's interesting about the Doors, and I also felt this way about Jane's Addiction, which is original Jane's Addiction is one of my favorite bands. Probably the Doors, Jane's Addiction, and Nine Inch Nails.
Navarro, one of the best guitar players in modern rock.
True. But the thing I think that is true of both Jane's and the Doors is they could be the best band you've ever seen or the worst band you've ever seen, depending on the night and probably on the sobriety and interest level of the lead singer. Whether it's more.
Yeah, right? No, Perry Farrell, you catch Perry Farrell on a bender, it's going to be something else. No, I agree. Those are interesting LA band, incredible guitar players and amazing singers. And that's an interesting parallel. I've never even compared, forget cards, the Doors and Jane's Addiction. There's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah. Another parallel, just real quick, I think, is that although each band in its original incarnation, at least with Jane's, was only around for 4 years and a handful of albums, 4 or 5 years, they had an inordinate impact on other bands. And Perry continues to have influence with the creation of Lollapalooza, which one of the best days of my life, just incidentally, was seeing Lollapalooza 1, which I went to because it was basically James's farewell tour with the original lineup. But it was also the first day I ever saw Nine Inch Nails. And
is that 93?
91.
91. Okay.
So it was before even the Broken EP came out, it was 3 years before the downward spiral. Like Resner only had Pretty Hate Machine out, and they were just incredible. They played during the middle of the day, couldn't have a light show, and just blew the place down. It was amazing. Like that still is one of the best like sets of any band I've ever seen. And I've seen
a few times, just ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Nine Inch Nails 14 times, and they've been great every time live. It's amazing. But one other thing I want to point out, and this is about like kind of the sticker card thing. I'm not sure this will come through very well with my crappy visuals here, but here is a raw version of that Doors card I just showed from 68. Now this looks from the front like it's nearly mint, like it would grade very high. Can you see that little yellow strip stain on the back?
Yep.
See that?
Yep.
All right.
Yes.
So my understanding is that these are called stickers, even though if you hold one, it's very thin cardboardy. And my understanding is, there was not only an album created to stick these in, but I think at least certain Panini products that distributed the stickers had like little glue strips that you would use to stick these in the album. And that's what that is. And so a lot of these, you will see those types of very geometrically perfect yellow stains on the back because the Panini issued glue strips were used to affix them to albums.
That's interesting. Very interesting. Hey, before I forget, you were showing the Doors card you had before that was a 9, and you were going to say something about the PSA 10.
Oh, the 10 was pulled, my understanding, because it's a dealer in Europe I've bought from. I vaguely remember the name. I'm not going to say it and butcher it, but it's a dealer, I think, in Italy, maybe in Rome or Milan, who got some sealed product, pulled it out of a sealed product, submitted several to PSA. That one came back at 10. I know his initial asking price on eBay was like $25,000. I heard someone say he sold it for like 18, but I don't know if that's true.
Still a huge number if it was.
Yeah, that was back before the big slide really happened. That was like a year ago or so, but yeah, that was a recently created 10 that was pulled from
that makes it even more amazing that someone got product in the last whatever years and pulled a 10. That's amazing.
Yeah, here's another fun one, and this is more again in the vein of like a public service announcement. If you go on eBay, you're going to see tons of people call this Nirvana's rookie card, 1995 Panini Smash Hits. This card from 94 is earlier than that, I think that's from like Brazil or Argentina. And this sticker from Finland in 1992 is way earlier than that.
Wow, crazy.
And one second, let me put my hands on something here. I got to find a certain pile. Here it is. And then I don't know much about this. I love this thing. My understanding is this is some sort of magazine insert set from Spain in like the early 90s. I don't know if it's 91, 92, but it's like, Cobain in the Nevermind covers type photo shoot.
That's
yeah, I love that thing.
Great.
And then, I would love to get Prince's first thing, or what people think Prince's first thing is. It probably is. It's like a card that was in a set that Warner Brothers issued, like a promo set for a bunch of its artists in 1979. But honestly, it's like the album cover of his first album. I think he's shirtless and has long hair and looks really young. I don't love that photo. Like, I would like to have that card, but I'm not going to pay thousands of dollars for a graded one because it's a rookie. To me, when I think of Prince, I think of Purple Rain. To my knowledge, this is like one of the only, or maybe the only thing issued by Panini that actually has a scene from Purple Rain. That's from the Let's Go Crazy opening sequence of Purple Rain.
That just epitomizes Prince right there. That's Prince,
It does. And then I'm going to tell a really lame joke here with this one. This is one of my very favorite cards. This is from 1985, I believe. Crass, I believe it's from Yugoslavia. So my lame joke about this card is it's the artist formerly and currently known as Prince from the country formerly known as the Yugoslavia. But I love this card. This is the only one I expect to ever see. Like if I ever see another one, I'll buy it too. But I mean, I can't even believe this card exists and that it found its way to me. But I would much rather have this that may be nearly unique, probably not unique, but incredibly scarce, as opposed to a card that, you know, isn't plentiful, but and is in high demand and it costs a lot, but you see for sale like several times every few months, even if it's the rookie.
That's awesome. The legend. Yeah. Let me ask you real quick. Are there any the Cure cards, rookie cards, or the Smiths? Any of those like English bands?
I mean, I know that I know the Cure, that's like Robert Smith, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like some Cure and Robert Smith stuff. I just don't know what's first or exactly when it is. I don't know about the Smiths. Probably from some, you know, obscure foreign set, but which I guess almost all of them are obscure foreign sets, or at least foreign sets. But I don't know. I don't know for sure. By the way, we had a little discussion about Nine Inch Nails. This is the only thing I've ever found. This is from a South American set called Rock Story 2002. That's clearly a picture from the Fragility tour time frame in like 99 or 2000. But that's the only Nine Inch Nails thing other than this weird caricature game card that I hate that I've been able to find. If anyone out there ever knows of any other Nine Inch Nails stuff, please let me know. I would love to get it. Let me rapid fire a few things that I really love, and I think these are things that get a lot of reaction on Instagram, and then we can kind of see if you want to go any further. But this is Alfred Hitchcock's first card, as far as I know, from 1940 Cinema Cavalcade, which is an important British tobacco set. I think there were two series. There's a couple Wizard of Oz cards that I'll show in a moment. Hitchcock's first card. There's a bunch of other cool stuff in there, like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. There's like a bunch of Marx Brothers cards. And I'm trying to think. I mean, a bunch of like Hollywood executives. Like I have some, you know, producers and one of the co-founders of MGM MGM and things like that. So that's an important set. The Hitchcock card I think is really cool. I have like a sub collection that is focused on like great directors. So that fits nicely into that. I have a number of Orson Welles cards too. I'm really kind of into him, and some of his stuff is pretty obscure and hard to find. This is a really low pop 50s Maryland card. For my money, that's the best Maryland card image, or at least one of a handful.
Wow.
Really, that I think that's like a pop 5 with maybe one higher. I will say I have a lot of graded stuff, but I like raw cards too. I don't have to have, especially this really like rare non-sports stuff. It doesn't have to be graded. But as I say that, the Wizard of Oz stuff kind of does. So here's a little rapid fire Wizard of Oz. I know you've been wanting to get to that. So Cinema Cavalcade, the set I just showed the Hitchcock card from, there's like 4 different sizes of cards, some of them in black and white, some in color. There's 2 Wizard of Oz cards that I know of in that set. Here's one. It's a mini. This is a 7.5. It's pretty low pop in that or higher. They're pretty hard to find even raw or in low grades, but I know that's kind of dark. But then one that I need to get graded. This is probably about the best raw example of this card you can find at this point. This is a large size card that's kind of like a small postcard size. It's obviously in color.
Who's that made by?
It's Max cigarettes. I know this was it's a tobacco set. I think it's often called like A&M Wicks Cinema Cavalcade. It was a tobacco set issue in Britain, in the UK in 1940. So like the PSA label for the one I just showed says A&M Wicks. This one says Max cigarettes on the back, but I think they all do. So let's go with A&M Wicks Cinema Cavalcade. But that's a pretty noteworthy and important old time set. So then we get, for the Wizard of Oz, the only other cards that date near the time of the movie that I know of. And again, if somebody knows of any others out there, please let me know, because I'd love to track them down. But there's a UK card game set by a company called Castle Brothers that made a lot of entertainment property card games and other card games between, I think their first one was a Snow White one in 1937. And then they kept making them until like maybe even like sometime in the 70s. They made a number of Disney sets. I can show you one very notable card in a moment from one of the early Disney sets. But they made this Wizard of Oz set. There's 44 cards in the set and then a header card. So these came in a box. The cards were in a box. And then affixed to the front of the box was this header card that you had to like pop off if you wanted as a card. So those are often beat to hell. The grades that you get on the header cards are usually lower than the cards inside the box will grade, which you would probably expect. This is a 5, which is actually pretty good. Like there is an 8.5 of this header card, and I don't know how. That must have been like totally unused stock that somebody stuck inside a pillow for 80 years. I don't know, but usually about the highest grades you'll find are a few 7s, but like a 6 or a 5 is a really good grade for the header card. This is a pretty high eye appeal 5.
That's a beautiful card.
This is probably the most iconic card from the set. There are some character focused cards. I'll try to show them all quick here, but Dorothy, Toto, an 8 is the highest. I actually just bought another 8 this week, but 9s are really, really expensive. And I don't know if I'll ever get up to a 9. I'd love to find an 8.5 or something, but that's one of those cards, like you can find a nice raw one that you can grade, or you can find a 7 or an 8 at a nice price. That's a fairly iconic non-sport card. This is a nice one. This one's
Wait.
one's a PSA 10.
That card.
So it's
Yeah.
Can you push it down a little? So what's the year on this card? 48?
1940.
That is real.
Yeah.
How did you come across that card? Did you sub it like that, or you bought it as a 10?
Well, I bought it from a really high-end non-sport dealer in Florida who just has like crazy high condition non-sport stuff. I mean, some of the prices are outlandish. But I mean,
that card, to see, and regardless of what the sport or whatever, when you see a card from 1940 and a PSA 10, that just blows me away.
That's insane, because I go back to like baseball or go something, and if it could be, you could have a scrub as a PSA 10. That card would be insane amount of money. So just think of an iconic, thing. Geez, that's unreal. I couldn't even believe when he was posting that was a 10. I'm just bugging out.
That card's amazing.
This is a Mickey 10 from 1938. Also Castle Brothers. These come in red and blue backs. My understanding is the guy I bought.
Incredible, dude. Can you turn it around again? Can I see the back of the card again?
The guy I bought it from had all the existing 10s. There's
that looks like
two
90s card, like the back.
Yeah.
There's 2 blue back 10s, this being one of them, and there's 1 red back 10. The other 2 are parts of complete graded sets. This is, to my knowledge, is the only one that's a 10 that's floating out there, or at least it was at the time I bought it. That is one of the last cards I'd probably ever sell, just because Where are you gonna
That-
find it, right? Like Mickey is
That's-
so globally iconic. And
Dude, that's icon. That's ridiculous. I didn't. Wow.
to put that into perspective, that's 10 years from Mickey Mouse's debut in Steamboat Willie. And that was the second set I think that Castle Brothers did. Based on my understanding, they did a Snow White set in 37, and then they did, it's called Shuffled Symphonies. So you can find those Mickey cards raw all over eBay. It's not that entirely rare. It's just in the high grades, as you'd probably expect. It gets a little dicier. Here's Scarecrow. This is a 9.
Those
Like
cards
that.
are amazing.
I'll try to just show the characters and maybe one or two of my other favorite cards, because I got a lot of these. I think I have 27 of the 44 cards and plus the header card, and I don't want the whole set. I'm just buying the ones that I like the best. But here's the lion. That's a 9.
The colors on that's really cool.
Those cards
Yeah,
are
and
incredible.
if you could see it in person, not through my crappy,
Yeah.
camera, they're just so vibrant. This is a 10 with Dorothy and Glinda.
Man,
I love that card. I don't know why that to me is just. See, one thing I wanted to say about Wizard of Oz and for the, why it's so iconic to me, like I'd put it up there right after like the original Star Wars, for just something that's sort of hardwired into my psyche. And for anyone born after the advent of home video, like you can't get this. But when I grew up, Wizard of Oz was shown once a year on television in, I think, April on a Friday night. And everybody you knew watched it. Like it was one of those, it was like the World Series or the Miss America pageant, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer around Christmas time, like before the advent of widespread cable television and home video. It was a cultural event to watch The Wizard of Oz when it aired one time a year. And so, I'm from that era that kind of caught the tail end of that before, home videos started coming along when I was like 10 or 11. But, Wizard of Oz is just, it's elementally iconic to me on like like if you think about like Carl Jung or like Joseph Campbell talking about archetypal, subconscious, iconic images and stuff that are just kind of resonant with people. Like that's what the original Star Wars and the Wizard of Oz are for me, given my exposure to them in early childhood.
Awesome.
This is probably my personal favorite card in the set, the Poppy Field. That's a 9. I love the colors on that one. The red of the poppies is really cool. And I prefer, like you were saying earlier with the Beatles, I like cards that have like all 4 of them together. Couple more Wizard ones I'll show, but while I pulled these, I do want to put a plug out there too. Like if anyone, I'm also, as I mentioned earlier, trying to collect cards of the actors in the Wizard of Oz. I recently got one for Frank Morgan, who plays the wizard. I have Judy Garland cards. Here's one I got today, 1940. That's an 8. And I like it that she just looks young. Like that picture was probably taken around the time they started filming Wizard of Oz, which I think is cool. But if anybody knows of any cards out there for like the other actors, especially Margaret Hamilton, who played the witch, or even Ray Bolger, who played Scarecrow, like I would love to know, because I haven't been able to find cards of them. I really like this Dorothy on the Yellow Brick Road with the ruby slippers, like the color. I know there's some glare on them.
amazing.
That's a beautiful card. That's a 10 as well.
Sure.
Wow.
They're really where this set fails, in my opinion, is there's no just, oh my God, Wicked Witch of the West card. There are a few that feature. I think I have them all. This is probably the best one, where she's like giving instructions to the head of the winged monkeys. But there's just, it's unfortunate that there's not like one of her poses from her first appearance in like Munchkin Land, where she's like super menacing, and your little dog too, or something like that. Like they kind of missed on that. Here's the Tin Man to finish off the character cards. It's a 9 if you can't see. And then here's an example. I bought this for my daughter. One of the other Castle sets, which is actually much rarer than Wizard of Oz, is Peter and the Pirates, which was done for Disney's Peter Pan in 1953. And here's one of the Tinkerbell cards from that I got for her.
Man,
It's a very pretty card. Well, I got so much here that, and I know we're running short on time. Did I show that the Disney Mickey card?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, this is Walt Disney's first card. It's not the first Mickey card, but as far as I know, and I think that's in double plastic. Let me take it out of the outer layer. Maybe it'll show it better. But this is like, I kind of liken that to, it's probably an overstatement, but kind of like the Gaudy Ruth of non-sport cards. Like, that's a pretty iconic card that a lot of people chase. It's not particularly rare, but it's rare in high grades. This is a 7.5, I believe, and I think I looked this up even right before we started tonight. I believe there are 6 7.5s and there are 25 higher out of a total graded population of something close to 400. So there are basically 31 examples so far graded that are that high or higher. Now, it does seem like a bunch of them got spit out of the PSA backlog pipeline in the last. Nice mid-grade ones have come down. It seems like there are a lot more 6s and 7s on the market now, but I don't think the population of 7.5 or above changed. If it did, maybe it was by 1 or 2. So, for a lot of cards that I am looking to buy graded, I'm looking for that demarcation point. Like, what is the best grade I can get without having to pay the crazy investor premium? And for that card, it's probably between 7 and 7.5.
Nice.
Here's another Disney card from 35, I believe. Who's looking very dapper in that one. And I have loads of other Disney stuff, but that's all I'll show for now. Anything else in particular you're interested in? I mean, I got a lot of stuff here, but I know we're running short on time. I'll throw this. Oh, I got to show you two here. Okay, number one, I did post this one to Instagram lately, but I really love this 1974. It's called National Periodical Cards. There's a bunch of Looney Tunes characters and a bunch of DC superheroes and supervillains. I also have the Joker, which I recently got.
Awesome.
That's a really cool set.
Amazing. Mel Blanc, incredible.
Yeah, and Bugs Bunny, I was surprised when I was thinking of buying that card. I did a little research about Bugs Bunny, and I didn't realize he debuted in kind of an unrecognizable nascent form in 1938 and was kind of more recognizable by 1940. I did not realize Looney Tunes was quite that old. And in some rankings of the most iconic fictional characters in the world, there are some rankings that have him above Mickey Mouse, which surprised me. Here's a card I just love. This is also a great set. There's a number of sets from France by, I don't know if he was a photographer or what, but it's the Felix Potin collection, and there are some that go back to 1901, and then I think there are some in the 20s or something. This is from a set from 1952, but I think there are only 2 or 3 of these graded by PSA at all. This is a 1.5, but these are really hard to find in even remotely presentable condition. But that's Salvador Dali looking as geniusly eccentric as he could. I love that card.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Amazing. The non-sports is just such a cool thing. I could go into rabbit holes about it. I would say, just to wrap it up, what is your final message to people who are not even non-sports, just to collectors in general?
I don't know if I have a lot of advice for collectors in general. I mean, there are lots of people out there with both in sport and non-sport with way more, continuous experience than me and far, far better collections. I mean, I think I'm in the have fun, buy what you like camp. I've always been a contrarian by nature, and I mean, I like what I like, and I like pursuing stuff that I like, and I don't give that much of a damn about what, the herd of sheeple think and what the influencers say. And, if you want to flex on Instagram and you think getting a card that tens of thousands of people have already posted to Instagram, if you think that's it, knock yourself out. It's your money. You can do with it what you want. I'm not trying to do anything, gratuitously unusual or unique or anything with this stuff. It's just I got bored with sports cards because I accomplished a lot of my sports card collecting goals. And I still have some things like this that mean something to me. I have a 55 Aaron here. I actually just sold my Aaron rookie a week ago.
Wow.
Because I like the 55 better, which I know is heresy. It's a conventional hobby
No, it's
wisdom. I
beautiful
was
set.
Peyton rookie.
Nice.
And
Yeah, I know.
here's
It's
one
funny.
sport.
You always post sport. Like I know, I always associate you with the non-sports and stuff because I think you post mostly that. But I don't sleep on your sports cards either, man. I see some of your eBay auctions. I'm like, wow, you got some nice stuff out there, like some really good stuff.
Yeah, and thank you.
Wow, that's crazy, man. That's really hard.
And I don't know if I want to take this out. It won't probably show up very well, but I mean, this is one of those cards and one of those sets I hope to leave to my daughter, and just to show that I still love sports cards. I mean, this is the Bryzzo dual auto relic from Game 7 of the World Series that has a piece of second base in it from Game 7, and that was touched by an inordinate number of players. My World Series Cubs collection that's what started me back into collecting, as I said, and it still is very, very meaningful to me. The Topps, I have a master set of the 2016 Topps Now Cub set that I hope to pass on to my daughter someday. I also, one other thing I'll show, two things. This is not card, but I don't collect a lot of tickets, but I just got the last one I needed to have a complete run of all the World Series tickets in PSA 9. And then and my daughter and I went to Game 3 at Wrigley, so that whole World Series is really special to us. But I also have a 10 of Game 7. That's a pop 8.
That's crazy.
So that's probably, like, I honestly think that will end up being my most valuable piece in the long run. Like, one of the Giannis Prism rookies might be today, but I actually think that Game 7 10 ticket will end up probably being the most valuable thing that I own. And I recently bought a 9 to go with my set, so someday I could sell the 10 separately without breaking up the set. So that's something I initially bought. That was the first of the tickets that I bought, and I bought that before it was a thing for like $600. There's one on eBay for 20,000 now. Nobody's buying it, but I think someday it could be like a 20, 25, $30,000 item, maybe more. A lot of my Cub stuff that I want to pass down to my daughter, the stuff that I don't, I'm kind of holding it until the 20th anniversary in 2036. I have a long-term horizon on that stuff. And there are certain cards connected to the World Series victory that I buy whenever I see them, and I kind of stockpile them with that 20th anniversary in mind. One other sports card I love that I'll show is, I call this the devil on one shoulder, angel on the other shoulder card. Walter Payton and OJ Simpson from 1977 Topps, like rushing leaders. So that's not a real valuable card, but it's one that I love. I get a kick out of it every time I look at it. So, I mean, I'm happy to answer anything else. I know we've been going a long time. It's been enjoyable, for me at least, selfishly. But I don't really have anything else I have to show.
Well, listen, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was awesome. You have a great collection. You know, it was nice to finally talk to you. And me and Joe really appreciate people coming on the show and, you know, just talking to us and just having a good time and, you know, enjoying the hobby. So thank you,
I
sir.
I appreciate the invite. This is the first time I've done one of these, and I'm glad I did. I don't know that I want to do a ton of them, but it was fun to do. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And I'll see you on the internets and I'll let you know when this one is ready to go.